my first official vlog. By day, I'm a software engineer, but on my nights and weekends, I love making videos and building cool projects. And today, I want to talk about AI, specifically how I have been using AI lately. The thing is, I've been using AI a lot, to the point where I use it to ask any question that I might have a problem on, whether it is for doing chores, doing house repairs.
Hey, can you tell me if this is the right tool or not?
Or even cooking.
Hey, can you give me some ideas of what goes with a bagel?
To the point where it's not just leaching into my personal life, but also into my work as well. And at this point, I don't know if I'm just trading productivity for actual mental growth. So if I can get anything out of documenting this experience with AI, I hope it's causing me more good than bad.
So this is also going to end up being just a little bit of a what's happening in a day kind of thing. A huge guilty pleasure, and might be super unorthodox, is I like having my bagels with pate. I'm Vietnamese, so pate is chef's kiss, and maybe a hidden gem for those who like savory breakfasts. Cheers.
So the big obvious question that people typically ask is AI coming for our jobs? My personal opinion, it's a yes and a no. Sam Altman, the one that's leading the whole revolution around AI, I think he has a strong opinion, especially because he's in it, and those that are in Silicon Valley, they definitely are around all these latest technologies. But there's a strong belief that AI is going to replace jobs, saying that it's inevitable. Same that happened when I was a young fetus in the early 2000s, and probably same when my parents were adults as well. Things changed, technology improved, people were frustrated probably in the very beginning, but eventually they learned to accept this new status quo. I have a feeling that something similar is going to happen in the next few years, and the only way to stay ahead of it is to be fully immersed in it. So once I finish my snack, we're going to dive into a little bit of how I have been using AI lately.
So good.
So I think the obvious AI model that everyone uses right now is ChatGPT. Every other month, it seems like there's a new model that's being released. Right now, I find that the GPT 4.0 model does most of the work when it comes to questions that I need for my day-to-day basis. The one thing that I find as super helpful is actually taking pictures. Not just because I want to take pictures as a creative or anything, but just taking pictures of things that I'm very uncertain about and just asking it questions. I mean, quite literally, a few months ago, I had my toilet just start leaking at the base. I had no idea how to repair a toilet, and I've never done that before. But I took photos of the toilet, specifically when it started to be rolled out. Now, I am a toilet expert and know about S-traps and P-traps for no reason at all. And yeah, safe to say, toilet's repaired. And today is a little bit special because I have a hackathon that I need to complete, and I'm going to use every AI tool in my disposal to see if I can get this over the line. And I'm going to show you all the processes and the nuances in which I try to prompt things and try to problem solve and hopefully build something pretty cool. You might be wondering, what hackathon am I joining? Well, it's called the Build with Vapi Challenge. If you don't know anything about Vapi, I've been playing around with the tools for a while. They allow you to build an AI voice agent. I think agents is probably a whole nother discussion. I wouldn't really say I use it that much in my day-to-day, even with coding, but I've been playing around with the technology recently, and the voices are pretty cool, which if you actually hear how the AI speaks, it's way better than a year ago when I tried it with another kind of voice AI service, 11 Labs. In this hackathon, there's some cool prizes for creative use cases or real-world applications, but I have an idea, and I'm gonna see if I can get it done within a day, using, of course, AI. So to outsource a little bit of the critical thinking when it comes to the unknowns, again, is that a good thing or not? Especially when it comes to connecting the dots between services, I'm gonna use ChatGPT. Not just the regular old ChatGPT, I'm gonna use deep research. Now, the trick for me when it comes to deep research is to give it context. For me, I find it's the connections that are the most challenging. For my case, I'm gonna give the prompt all the context regarding around the Vapi challenge. Also providing a link to Vapi's API, because I know I'll be using those ones. Now I have to give the prompt context around my idea. I wanted to tackle the issue of university. Whether you are applying for university or just looking for help while you're already in a course, sometimes going in person can be a bit tedious, or just queuing up waiting for someone to service you. Now I'm gonna say the phrase that a lot of my colleagues will say: imagine a world where you have an AI that knows everything about courses, different opportunities within a university. You could just ask it questions and it'll respond to you with pieces of information. Even nowadays, I'm already graduated from university and I still get a lot of people asking me about what are the differences between courses. I was a student ambassador, so I was quite used to answering a lot of those questions, but imagine if you had an AI to do that for you. Plus, living in Australia, there's a huge diversity of different people that come in as international students, and sometimes language is a big issue, especially when trying to communicate in English. What if I could help those students? And what would a prototype look like? And yes, all of that goes into the prompt. But the one trick that I found that makes it super impactful and customized to yourself is if you give it context now on yourself. Here's the thing, if you sent that prompt right now, it would likely go off and give you some great recommendations, but as a technical person, we're not competent enough on every single piece of technology. The thing that you can provide is context on you and your skill sets. Imagine it's just like a job resume where you're actually listing your real skills. And if you already know what you're looking for, AI becomes a tool that bolsters your productivity rather than replacing your critical thinking skills. So for myself, I am competent in TypeScript and JavaScript. I know how to build web apps and mobile apps. And I'm quite familiar with different types of cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP. So listing off the services that you are competent in helps the model cater its responses and recommendations, especially from a solution architect perspective, to your skill set, which just makes the output more fruitful. Now, all I really need to do is hit send, and now it's gonna ask some follow-up questions. So right now, when you send your first prompt in the deep research mode, it's gonna ask you a few follow-up questions, which I think is super important because clarity, especially when it comes to doing research, helps you uncover questions that you probably would have never expected or asked yourself. Also, a quick tip, if you speak faster than you actually type, I find enabling dictation mode on Mac can speed up writing your prompts as well. I don't know if you're like me and type really slowly. I know, ironic for a software engineer. I find that I can speak out my prompts super quickly. I find I'm even using the speak function on my phone now as well. And yeah, it just speeds up my productivity as well. And no, you don't need any expensive mic for this. Now, all we do is wait. Deep research usually takes some time, so go get a coffee, go grab some lunch, or experiment with other AI tools. So the one thing right now in my personal life that I'm trying to value and cherish is my personal health. My mom always tells me that health always comes first. Can you tell me how much protein is in this? And there is no cost to your health. So I've been trying to take it a little bit more seriously. Body ain't working like it used to before. I'm 27 and a half. And in the past, I've tried to track things with different apps, but it wasn't sustainable long term. But one thing I found that actually helped me understand how much I'm ingesting and working out is, of course, AI. Sometimes I like to get out of the room and just sit out in the living room. A little change of space never hurts anyone. While we're waiting for the deep research to complete, there's actually other AI tools that I personally use. Quite recently, I've been interested in entrepreneurship and startups. So I applied for this program, part of UTS Startups, with the ultimate goal of being able to earn your first dollar, not through a typical 9-to-5, but through, let's say, freelance work or digital products. Now, the digital product landscape is definitely not something that is new. And now with AI being more than accessible to the common person, digital products are now being flushed out into the market at a super rapid rate. You could potentially say that now there is a bit of a divide between those that utilize the skill of AI to build online businesses and those that are looking online to purchase some of these products. Each week I'm tasked with homework. Surprise, surprise, it's just like university. And I'm supposed to build some sort of digital product. To be completely honest, I wouldn't say that I'm exactly an entrepreneur. For most of my life, I think I've done the most traditional route, that being graduating from high school, going to university, graduating from university, doing all the internships, and eventually landing that 9-to-5 job as a software engineer here in Australia. On the side, I've definitely dabbled in content creation. I've done brand deals, as well as start some side businesses that eventually didn't work out as expected. But I think some of the lessons in this program might be valuable because it'll be transferable to, say, when I want to build some sort of side project and need to monetize it through different avenues, building a personal brand for myself online, or just making content creation on YouTube sustainable. So how do I make AI images for fun? Well, in the last month or so, I've been using Midjourney. When I found comparing ChatGPT's image generation to Midjourney's image generation, I found Midjourney was able to be a little bit more diversified in its art styles. Now, these are pretty cool, but one thing about Midjourney is that it typically requires a very specific type of prompt. And I am not the greatest at image prompting. So what we're going to ask ChatGPT 4o is to create a prompt for Midjourney. Because ChatGPT is more linguistic, it's going to be able to translate from plain English into a specific prompt with that style that we're looking for. Then I can go back to Midjourney, copy paste that over, and select to submit. So I know that Midjourney has its editing tools as well, but I only like to use those once I get an image that's very close to what I'm looking for. I only use that for like tiny small tweaks, whether it's like hand gestures, or maybe there's a funky eye that didn't get generated correctly, or maybe I'm just looking for the same type of setting, but just variations of that. And yeah, eventually you can get something of a unique art style like this. I kind of like the bit art style, so I might go with something like this, or maybe a variation. AI has been super helpful for business and understanding concepts. I find it very valuable in content creation as well, specifically in having someone to just bounce ideas off of, or even generate new ideas based upon what I've been making so far. Sometimes it feels very hard to understand what kind of vision I'm going for. So it acts more of like a buddy to me. Am I going for something that's a little bit more cinematic, or can I cut back on that and go for something raw like this? Plus, making thumbnails and titles is so difficult. I'm doing all this in ChatGPT, by the way. I know you can do it in other models, but I found it to be the most effective. I think the only thing that it kind of struggles with is creativity and emotions. Even though we can automate all these different things, the one thing it's still missing is that human connection, for now at least. However, there's still a way to make sure that the outputs are more customized to your preferences and your styles. And it all goes back to context. If you make content online, imagine you had a content coach to critique and give you feedback on videos or posts or anything put at yourself online that represents your brand out to the world, where it understands what's your niche. What I would typically do if I want to brainstorm new video ideas, provided all the context around the type of content I want to make. Usually this is a mix between cinematography, vlogging style, technology, and software engineering, but fundamentally surrounded around the main premise of storytelling. The big thing I've been doing a lot lately is providing snapshots. Snapshots of my channel, snapshots of frames within videos, so that it understands the general vibe. I think when it comes to YouTube, being original and finding your own sense of style is definitely very difficult because it's so easy to fall into the streams of what works. AI right now for YouTube for me is more of a tool rather than a full-on automation replacement for everything. So the deep research is done, and now we can just review the step-by-step guide. And because earlier on I gave my preferences on what technologies I wanted to use, it's catered the responses and options to that tech stack. It's recommending the project be done in Next.js using the Vapi Web SDK software development kit, a database, namely Supabase, which is optional if we want some sort of data persistence. That's okay. And because we're addressing students that are international and might speak different languages, this part I think is probably the most important. In the next step, it's talking about configuration, specifically of the voice assistant. So sometimes things are optional and sometimes things are required. In the case of Vapi, there's a bunch of different configurations, like what kind of AI model I wanted to use, what kind of voice I wanted to speak in, and probably very important being, what do I not want it to say? So even though it always gives you a plan, I always approach it with a level of skepticism. Hallucination, even in today's models, does happen. So something to keep track of. And then the rest of the steps are quite typical. It has to do with web interfaces I'm pretty comfortable with, but it's always nice to get a secondary opinion. And then there's something that I think is super useful, and it's only because I gave it a lot of context on the hackathon and my use case. It's walking us through different flows. So different questions that students might ask, such as application deadlines if they're applying, course information, which is quite typical. Imagine the agent just has access to all the university's information, so it can provide you that information and query it very quickly. So yeah, it looks really good, and I think we can build out a quick prototype of this. All right, let's get to work.
Hello. So it's been a few hours and I've started to get some of the front end working. It's super rough. I've just been prompting a little bit, and the main way of setting up this project has been mostly through AI. Of course, I don't really need it, but it does help and save some time with coding lines. The way I've been building this project has been super simple. Building upon the chat that we did the deep research in, pretty much asked the first question of, hey, build me a front end application and tell me the step-by-step details, because it gave me the high level of all the different steps. Now we want to dig deeper into each of them. The front end is pretty much the easy part. We just have to spin up a quick Next.js front end, and because I'm going for something simple, I'm just building a web application. On the first go, I think AI is really good at laying out the structure. Can't really expect it to go off and be super creative and build you something with all these different animations. You can add those in later, just in small portions. Cursor is probably the most popular AI IDE out there nowadays. I've tried it. I found it pretty expensive, to be completely honest. And in the beginning, it was really great. It helped a lot with building front-end components that would take me ages to do so. And it actually had a lot of context with the whole workspace. So things like directory structure and files are super important, because sometimes it can just hallucinate and create random files off the bat. But I do think there were some issues when it came to implementing the agent. And I found the experience to be not as great, to be completely honest. But that was when I discovered another coding editor, Trey. None of this is sponsored, by the way. I've been using it for a while now, and right now it's been completely free. The UI has those nice rounded boxes. Maybe it's just a personal taste and flavor, but I find that the AI is able to get better context the entire workspace. Plus, I'm not having to spend $32. I'm pretty happy with it. I think one of the biggest questions people usually have is, can AI just generate me my entire prototype to idea to a production-ready solution? From total experience, I don't think AI is there just yet. It's great at replicating things that already exist. Web pages are in bounties aplenty, so the models have been trained upon them. But when new things are released or certain versions of packages are updated, the AI starts to struggle with them. So what I usually recommend to people that are just diving into coding for the first time and trying to build things with AI, I always say to use AI as a tool to help you learn, not to do the work for you. Because when you understand what is happening under the hood, you can guide the AI to produce results to what you expect. The biggest example of this is setting context. So imagine I have ChatGPT in this one window, but I have this AI editor in the other window. Those two can't talk to each other, but put the ideas from that chat into the AI code editor's AI to think about. The reason I do that is to prevent hallucinating and refine the things that the AI can do. Directory structure. I have a command that lists out all the different directories and files I have
and outline, hey, I want APIs to go in this folder. That way, it's not just going off willy-nilly and creating new files. What about databases or these cloud services? Well, you can give it context on that as well. I'll pretty much copy the SQL commands that create those tables so that has context on the different fields and their relationships. Why can't I update this column in this table? Can you give me a little bit more help? Context is key. All right, so front end's all good and clear. I want to get into the functionality. All I'm thinking I really need to do is set up the Vapi system prompt. Like this can just be ClickOps style, and then I'll get AI to generate the system prompt so it knows how to handle different types of flows and requests, and add in the guardrails so that students can't just ask different types of questions all willy-nilly. I'll test that first purely through the Vapi's UI. Once that's good, we can try to hook that up to this front end and see if that works. And then later, optional, but I'm kind of trying to see if I can get this done. So we're just going to have to track how we're planning, and then, yeah, hopefully we can get a submission by the end of the night. All right, let's go. That's pretty cool. It's around 8 o'clock now, and I just finished up the initial prototype. I used a bit of AI and as well as a new styling library for this website, and I think it's sounding pretty good. So the demo is fairly simple. All it is just a landing page just to emulate the ability for a student to call in on their phone. The thing with this assistant is that I configured it with the persona that it was a admissions officer, specifically for my old university, UTS. Don't worry, I put a disclaimer at the very bottom to say that this is purely a demo and doesn't reflect their image whatsoever. Okay, let's test trial this. I think I know some bugs. We're just gonna go ahead and ship it anyways. Let's try it.
Hello, I'm Anna, your University Admissions Assistant at UTS. I can help with deadlines, course info, campus tours, scholarships, and more. How can I assist you today?
Hey Anna, I want to learn more about single versus double degrees.
Yes, we do offer double degrees, including engineer and business combined.
And what's the ATAR that you need to get in?
For our engineering and business double degree.
Wait, I think I got it. Can you just tell me a little bit more about the AI electives?
I'm sorry, but I don't have specific details on AI electives right now. You can find more information on our course website, or I can connect you with an academic advisor. Have a great day and good luck with your application.
So, safe to say that there are plenty of bugs with the model, that's for sure. So the one thing I really wanted to tackle was that multi-language functionality. I wouldn't say it's perfect, just having that slimmer of hope of it being able to understand another language. I think I've been able to get to that point. There's so much refinement still needs to be done.
Hello, I'm Anna, your University Admissions Assistant at UTS. I can help with deadlines, scholarships, and more today.
Bonjour Anna, j'ai vu étudier à l'UTS.
Bonjour, c'est génial que vous envisagez d'étudier à l'UTS. Quel domaine ou programme vous intéresse-t-il? Bonne chance avec votre...
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. I'm so bad at French. As you can tell, I have not studied French in ages, and you kind of get the point that it can speak other languages on the fly. I barely even understood French there, but that was the closest language that I could choose to even just demo this multi-language thing. So that's the thing. It wasn't perfect, and I know it's not perfect. It's definitely far from being that conversational as well, but to me, it helps give a glimpse of how much the world is changing around us. So that was pretty cool. I think like being able to scrap that together in a few hours is pretty exciting. I think just playing around with the models, you can tell that there are still some improvements need to be. One, the conversational element of some of these models is not quite there. I think Vapi's done a really great job with their models. I think the other languages still need a little bit more training data on conversational usage. And then there's just some moments where the AI might just fizzle out because it just doesn't know what exactly to say. But hopefully the models do get better, especially other languages, because learning and education shouldn't be bound by a certain language. So I'm going to submit this to Vapi's Build Challenge. Whether it's complete or not, it's okay. It's just fun to play around with tools and see things get put together. whether we win or lose, that's fine. All I can say is that we were able to play with AI models and just understand what they're capable of today. I think the one thing about this AI craze is that it's inevitably coming. And as an engineer or just somebody that's living, I personally think it's made us a lot more productive. Today has been super exciting because I've been able to share a little bit of side projects that I've been working on. And doing this hackathon in this short amount of time, it's just cool to play with tools that could just change the way we interact. Hopefully we get this multilingual thing down though. And yeah, thank you so much for watching my first vlog. Many more to come. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.